Reminder that Lars Larson will join us to start the 8 o'clock hour, but right now we visit with Dr. Lance Evans, the State Superintendent of Education, right here in the great state of Mississippi. Good morning, Dr. Evans.
Good morning, sir. How are you?
I'm doing well. I have to ask you this as we start. We were talking about the travel pictures in the background. You and Lance were before the our Lance, not you, Lance.
Yes, right.
Before that, we were talking about running with the Bulls. In your travels, have you been to Barcelona, and did you run with the Bulls?
I have not, but if I had the opportunity to run with the Bulls, even with my old self, I would be out there doing it. That would be one of those that I would like to check off the bucket list.
We are 3 for 3 on that, and we established that you don't have to be the fastest runner. You just have to be faster than the slowest runner, and you don't be the dumbest guy in the crowd either.
Yeah. It's kind of like the bear chasing you, right? You just got to be able to trip the right person so you can.
Maybe so. It's been an interesting. It's been an interesting year. It's been an interesting few weeks, especially in your office. We are watching the Department of Government Efficiency kind of look at agencies all over the federal landscape. There are lots of cuts. There are lots of freezes that are happening. I guess it was a couple of weeks ago the announcement came down that the Department of Education was freezing remaining COVID money that had been promised but had not yet fully been spent, and that has an effect, or at least potentially has an effect here in Mississippi. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yes, sir. It has a tremendous effect, and thank you for the opportunity to come on here and provide some information to the public about what's going on. We try to be very transparent and ensure that our districts know what's going on. But on March the 28th, about 4:30 that afternoon, I headed back up north home and was headed to a baseball game with my sons and got an email, and the email basically said it was 4:29. To be honest with you, I can remember that at 5 o'clock that afternoon they were shutting off the portal for ESSER funds, for remaining ESSER funds. And we, at that point in time, I thought we had somewhere around 180 million that was still out there. Of course, we had to start tabulating, obviously, over the weekend and first couple of days. But it's the total amount is about 137,221,000, somewhere in that ballpark. And it's one of those things to where I understand why they're doing some of the things they're doing, but this money's different. This money we already, and this is very important that I say this, no school district in the state of Mississippi and the Mississippi Department of Education did absolutely nothing wrong. We followed all the directions, all the rules to get late liquidation on the ESSER funds through 2026, and we're granted that. And that's why our districts move forward. That's why they move forward with the contracts they're in, and some of it is tied up in like learning loss type contracts, but also somewhere in the neighborhood of 45 million is tied up in construction work, which we know there is no, while you can negotiate an exit to a consulting contract for services that haven't been rendered, we can't do that with construction contracts. Not to mention we have the work that's going on. So it's a huge issue for our state.
So $137 million that the federal government has promised that it would pay under a previous administration, but the federal government nonetheless, that gives you the peace of mind that you can go forward with certain projects, and now they're saying, no, this money is not going to come. So you sent a letter to Linda McMahon, right, the Cabinet Secretary for the Department of Education. What did you say specifically in that letter?
Well, we outlined, we've sent one letter and now in the process of sending a funding request for the agency as well as each of the district's projects. Excuse me, but in that letter, it was not an aggressive letter. It was it was basically a clarification as a reminder of, we move forward in our state based on this approval that we previously were granted in January. So that we applied for in December, January-ish, and received in January. Our districts enter into a contract, and we feel that you have a legal obligation to fulfill that. Otherwise, our districts would not have done that if they did not believe that they had that approval to move forward, unless they were willing to obviously absorb the cost on their own. And we just asked for them to reinstate that, explained to them we would be applying for the reinstatement of funds. But the thing is when it was, and again, nothing I'm saying is political. This is just hard, cold hard facts, right? Zero political agenda to any of this. My job is to take care of our districts, our students, our communities in Mississippi. And I don't think that it's appropriate for us to have been told we can enter into a contract with these dollars and then have them taken back. This isn't funds, and the argument has been out there as to, well, why haven't we already spent them? Okay, and that's a fair question.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, the billions
because
of dollars that were dumped into the economy, right, and also, but you got to understand the billions and billions of dollars that was dumped into the economy nationwide. There's no way there wasn't enough contractors to do the work. There wasn't. I mean, people were locked down with COVID still, depending on parts of the state. So it is, it's a tough deal, and it's causing undue burdens for our districts, and it's very concerning. But we are working aggressively to try to get some portion of it back.
Is it fair to say that this program, these funds, there's been kind of like a moving of the goalposts in terms of when the program would end? Like it was scheduled to end, and then you had to spend the money within 120 days, and then that deadline got pushed back again and again and again to the point where you're like, well, maybe they're just going to push it back in perpetuity?
No, sir, that was never. I could see where someone might see that, but no, sir, that was never.
So help me understand that.
We knew beyond a shadow of a doubt, without the approval from USDE, U.S. Department of Education, to be granted the late liquidation of funds through 2026, that it was over. So when USDE sent the appropriate process, the department worked with the districts, 68 districts, and sent that information in on their projects and the state as a whole in order to be allowed late liquidation on the projects. So when they granted that, we knew beyond a shadow of a doubt, you knew it was going to be over in 2026, right? I mean, we knew this. We felt lucky that and this wasn't just Mississippi. Now, this is nationwide. This isn't just a Mississippi problem. This is across the entire United States. So when we got that late liquidation granted, we felt confident that completely confident that we could move forward with our projects, because literally our districts, the advice we gave them was just put a pause on what you're doing. Don't try to terminate contracts yet. Work with your vendors, work with your contractors. I'll do anything I can. My personality is such as that I will do anything I can to help anyone in our school district. So if I need to help speak with someone, I will. But to pause what's happening, because in the event you reinstate these funds, well, now we have, so you go from not being able to get the funding to spending obligations and requirements for spending certain amounts and percentages on things. And if you've terminated these contracts, you don't have the ability to do it. So it's complicated when you the entire process. But it is broken up across 3 different funds. We say ESSER funds just in general, but
what is ESSER?
The 3 different. It is. Oh my goodness.
I'm sure it's an acronym.
Isn't that terrible? Yes. Education for say. Isn't that terrible? I've been calling it ESSER for years.
No, it's all good. But
give me a minute; it'll come back. It'll give me a minute. Elementary, secondary school emergency relief. Yes,
there we go.
Yeah, I knew it would come back eventually. I've been calling it ESSER for the last 5 years, so you know how those acronyms work sometimes.
Well, and I ask that because there are a lot of people that have just referred to this as it's COVID-19 money, and there is a little more specificity to it than it's just money that the government threw out. There were specific programs that were put together that school districts and states had the ability to apply for, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And they had to meet certain criteria. The department here, we made sure that we were the first clearinghouse, if you will, for each project. And then it was sent on to ensure that it would be approved at the federal level, because everyone understood the rules. The rules were, if you move forward with the work before the project is approved, then you assume all the cost that's associated with it. And obviously our districts were cautious about that, because you don't want to enter into a project that you don't have the funding for.
So there are two big what-if questions going forward. Can you hang with me through the break, and let's talk just for a few more minutes
I'm
before
good.
the end of the hour?
Yeah, we're good. We're good. Yes,
Dr.
sir.
Lance Evans visiting with us, Superintendent for the Mississippi Department of Education. So what legal remedy is the Department of Education in Mississippi prepared to take, if necessary, to try and make sure these funds come in? And what if the funds don't come in? And is it the state's responsibility to make up for the shortfall? We'll talk about those two things when we come back with you. Mornings with Richard Cross, SuperTalk Mississippi, streaming online at supertalk.fm and SuperTalk TV. We're back with you right after this. Dr. Lance Evans is my guest, State Superintendent of Education with the Mississippi Department of Education. We're talking about the freezing of funds by the federal Department of Education, about $137 million that had been allocated to Mississippi for projects, some of which are about to start, some of which are ongoing, some of those are construction related, and that money has been frozen. And Mississippi, the Department of Education, has applied for the reinstatement of those funds to finish the projects that were allocated and approved by the federal Department of Education, and here we are. And that's kind of what we're talking about this morning. So in terms of moving forward, if these funds remain frozen and go away, what are the remedies in that situation? Is the State Department of Education prepared to pursue legal action against the federal government?
So that would run through the AG's office. We have met with the Lynn Finch with her office just to bring them up to date. I also obviously met with the governor's office. I've received letters of support from them. I've also received letters of support from our congressional members moving forward with this request. In the beginning, it was when that original email came in for that entire week, there was like zero guidance. So it was like, here you go, this is what we're doing, and no follow-up. So obviously we're scrambling. And we knew that there would be typically felt like there would be some form of relief from to some extent. But they did obviously roll out the process that we can reapply. Now it is on a project by project basis. So you can imagine the work that goes into that. We are, we are rolling, if you will, for that, with that work to get that approved. But so that would come down to our state making that decision. I know that there's been some conversation about the state making up the difference. Before we get to that point, I do not want our taxpayers in the state of Mississippi to carry that burden without for sure applying as much pressure as possible to USDE to reinstate those funds. At least give us a 12-month window, right? So we can finish up some of the projects, because all those construction projects, they are underway. I mean, literally, you could have been to a point where there was a hole in the roof swapping a HVAC unit out, where the rubber meets the road. I mean, it's
right.
Rid of that point. So as far as a legal remedy, I do feel like they will. I've met Secretary McMahon, and I will tell you, she was very personable, very, very nice lady. I actually gave her a MDE lapel pin. She put it on her jacket, like very personable. So I do think that she does have some level of understanding as to the I guess irritation would be the right word. Of what's going on right now. So.
All right, so the answer to part one is that's an AG's decision as to whether or not legal action is pursued against the federal government, which is a big deal, and it certainly doesn't speed the process up. If this money remains frozen or goes away, I know what you said a second ago about, you don't want taxpayers in Mississippi to have to foot the bill for it, which they kind of already are doing, at least in part, with the federal money. Does it then fall to the legislature to say, hey, we're going to allocate funds so these projects can finish? Does it fall on the school districts to find the money themselves, whether it's through like a bond issue, a local referendum? What happens then?
So worst case scenario, there's zero additional dollars that come in and districts have to fill the void. That's worst case scenario. Because here at the department, we had reimbursed to districts because federal funding is on a reimbursement model. So the districts spend, they send us the bill, right? And then we provide to the districts, and then we get reimbursed from the federal government. We're still holding the bag on about 35 million that we have expended to districts with the knowledge of we were assured, obviously,
you're
we were going to be reimbursed
for that money.
Yeah, and we're not. We have not, because it's one of those things to where it's much larger. There was some funds that were running through our governor's office, our funds that were grants that were being handled through the department, and then that were also going to districts, and then also the district ESSER funds. So it was like three different parts, if you will.
Money,
Those
yeah.
are yes, sir. That would be the best way to put it. So we're sitting here we've expended about 35 million. And we don't have. There's not like some pot of money to pay. There's no pot of money, right? So
yeah. Last thing for you, only 30 seconds left. Are these projects that could have been requested earlier and started earlier? I know you talked about construction delays and some of those things. Or is this stuff where districts represented, hey, this program's out there, we better take advantage of it before it goes away?
No, these projects have been underway for quite some time. Like, for example, large-scale HVAC projects where the lead time might have been like 2 months to get these units, it turned into 2 years. So, that's why I said earlier, it's just it's a tough deal, but we've got to get this thing remedied because the grace period for our contractors is running out very quickly.
Sure. Lance, really appreciate your time. We're going to keep an eye on this issue. Always good to visit with you.
I appreciate your time. Thank you, sir. Have a good day.
Dr. Lance Evans, State Superintendent of Education. This is Mornings with Richard Cross. Lars is next.